Back in 2015, when Akira Toriyama first introduced what at the time was called Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, aka Super Saiyan Blue, even he couldn't even fathom that there would be so many different variants to Super Saiyan Blue to come out since then. As the story of Dragon Ball Super progressed, we were introduced to a variety of variants for Super Saiyan Blue, some of which were in the manga, some of which were only in the anime, and many of which Toriyama had nothing to do with. So today I'm compiling all the information on this Omnibus as we look at every version of Super Saiyan Blue, and by the end, you will be an encyclopedia of Super Saiyan Blue knowledge. Let's go. The golden-haired Super Saiyan form is truly iconic because it represents an entire generation of anime explosion all over the country, led by Goku in Dragon Ball Z. It is synonymous with Dragon Ball Z, and if one were to make a comparison to the Super Saiyan form when it came to the Dragon Ball Renaissance, what form has become synonymous with all of the marketing in Dragon Ball Super and everything around it? Super Saiyan Blue. It is the modern equivalent of Super Saiyan when it comes to being the poster form for what Dragon Ball has become. And thus, on this edition of the Geekdom 101 Transformation Guide, we're going to be looking at Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, otherwise known as Super Saiyan Blue. The origins of Super Saiyan Blue were rooted with the release of Dragon Ball Z Battle of God in 2013 that kicked off the Dragon Ball Z Renaissance and would lead to the eventual premiere of Dragon Ball Super as a television series and also a promotional manga that has now become the centerpiece of the story of Dragon Ball Super. But before any of that happened, I distinctly remember there being fan art of a hypothetical Vegeta Super Saiyan God form that would take place after Battle of Gods, where Vegeta had blue hair. That was all fan art. But in this case, a piece of fan art would become a reality. Now, it's unclear whether or not Toriyama actually borrowed the concept from the fan art. We'll never know. But during pre-production for Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, at some point, Toriyama, as he was writing the script, decided to introduce a new level of Super Saiyan beyond just God. The last two transformation guides that I've done here on the channel have been focused on Super Saiyan God and Saiyan Beyond God, so I would highly advise you to watch those videos first before watching this one and come back to this one so that you have a better understanding of Super Saiyan God and also Saiyan Beyond God, the godly base form that would lead to Super Saiyan Blue. But before it was even called Super Saiyan Blue, when Toriyama submitted his notes to Toei Animation during pre-production, he drew a picture of Goku and Vegeta with Super Saiyan-esque hair, but it was blue, and he wrote right next to it, Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, obviously in Japanese. Those were the original names of these forms, and those names have still been adopted by the majority of the video games and even some of the other promotional material. So for a few months, Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan was the definitive name of this form. Then, during the Dragon Ball Super manga, which at this point Toyotaro had begun writing the story arc that would take place after Resurrection F, it was decided, likely by the corporate office, to rename this form Super Saiyan Blue because Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan is a bit redundant. Super Saiyan Blue is a much easier thing to say, and thus that's essentially what they did. But both names are official and both names are accurate. Now, when it comes to the concept behind Super Saiyan Blue, Toriyama would fuse past and present, where he explains, as well as Goku in the film, that this form is the result of a Saiyan with the power of Super Saiyan God within him and knowledge of God Ki transforming into a Super Saiyan. So it's sort of like an upgraded version of Super Saiyan God. It's a stronger version, and boy, where there were a lot of debates a few years ago about this, because there were people for a long time that thought that God was stronger than Blue because of a lot of misinformation, thanks to a lot of really crappy Dragon Ball websites. But it's been confirmed throughout the majority of Super and by anybody that has common sense that Blue is an upgraded form. Now, this confusion came because Toriyama once stated that red was a strong color, but he was just speaking about the color, not the actual form. In fact, Toriyama states, when he talks about Goku in interviews, that Toriyama chose during the pre-production to make Goku's hair blue to express that Goku had overcome his limits and learned to be a more balanced and tranquil fighter and keep his composure in a fight, as opposed to having power drop out like what happened with Goku Super Saiyan God in Battle of Gods. We later found out that during the initial creation stages of this form, Toriyama had danced around the idea of having Goku's hair be white, but instead he settled on blue because he felt like white hair would clash with the color of the next enemy. Now, when he says next enemy, we're not sure if he means Frieza or if he means Zamasu, but it's difficult for me to really comprehend that Toriyama had the Goku Black arc already planned when he was making Resurrection F, considering that the Goku Black arc wouldn't start for a year after Resurrection F and a year and a half to 2 years after the pre-production for Resurrection F. So I don't think he was talking about Zamasu. I'm guessing he was talking about Frieza because Frieza has light skin, like a grayish whitish skin. Although some would say it's Zamasu, he never really elaborated. But he did say he would save the white hair for another occasion. Later on, we got completed Ultra Instinct, which is like a light silver. That's pretty close to white. Interestingly enough, when we see the transformation in Resurrection F, it's got some similarities to some of the older forms. Like Super Saiyan Blue looks like the old Super Saiyan, except when he transforms, there's like these sort of ball-like blue auras like gleaming off the body. It's not really lightning like what we saw with Super Saiyan 2. It's more so like pure soft energy, like God Ki, like what you would imagine God Ki would look like, very tranquil. So in many ways, the form itself kind of does feel like it's very fitting for what Toriyama wanted. Now I'm going to go into here in a moment more details about Super Saiyan Blue and its aspects, but before I do, I want to take y'all back to 2015. Remember when the first leak of this came out? It was a toy, and I swear I thought it was a bootleg. I remember covering it right here on the channel in one of my early videos, so I have a lot of nostalgia for this form. And it was these toys from Japan, these miniatures that had Goku and Vegeta with blue hair. I thought it was fake. Then we found out that they do have new forms that would be revealed in the Dragon Ball Heroes arcade game. And shortly before the movie actually premiered, we did indeed see the blue-haired form. Now, Resurrection F had a pre-screening in March of 2015, about 2 weeks before it would come out, not only in Japan, but also the Los Angeles screening of Resurrection F. And there we confirmed that indeed Goku and Vegeta, of course being a surprise, did have Super Saiyan Blue, or at that time Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, as their new showcase forms that would go on to become the iconic forms of the modern Dragon Ball era. Now, let's talk about how Super Saiyan Blue works. Let's talk about some of the inner tidbits about this form that you may or may not know, because to me, that's the most interesting part of this transformation. So Super Saiyan Blue can be a bit confusing for some. I know it was for a lot of folks when we first saw the form. And maybe some people are still confused, so I'm going to do my best to explain how this form actually works. The information that I've compiled here is in combination with the Dragon Ball Super anime, the Dragon Ball Super manga, the Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F movie, and some of the other supplemental material that has come out about this form through interviews, through Jump magazine scans, and things of that nature. So I'm going to hit you with a lot of information right now. And my goal is that by the end, you'll have a better understanding of Super Saiyan Blue and all the properties. Also, This video will not be covering the upgraded versions of Blue like Blue Evolution or Completed Blue. Those will have their own separate transformation guides that you can watch. Let's focus on the initial version of Blue. In Battle of Gods, Goku got a taste of the power of God Ki through the ritual. When it comes to Vegeta, Vegeta did it a totally different way. Vegeta was able to achieve the power of a god through training with Whis. I've talked about this in previous videos and it's been confirmed multiple times that that is how Vegeta was able to attain that power. But Goku, while he got a taste of the god form, was able to explore more of this god power through training with Whis. And we saw some of this in the Dragon Ball Super episodes in between Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, which would be Super episodes 13 through 18. And there we saw teases for what would become Super Saiyan Blue, although we had already seen Super Saiyan Blue in the Resurrection F movie. When a Saiyan utilizes God Ki correctly and transforms, he can become a Super Saiyan God. However, with enough knowledge and training, by combining their knowledge of how to transform their bodies into the old school traditional golden Super Saiyan form, Goku and Vegeta were able to utilize that skill while also harnessing God Ki, divine energy, and that produces Super Saiyan Blue. And as of the making of this video, the only characters to be able to achieve Super Saiyan Blue in the series have been Goku and Vegeta and their subsequent fusions, Vegito and Gogeta. That's it. Goku Black, however, has his own sort of version of it, but that'll be a story for a separate video. Had Goku and Vegeta not had prior knowledge of how the Super Saiyan transformations work, it would have probably taken them a lot longer to achieve Blue. Of course, that's just hypothetical. At the time when Resurrection F came out, and even shortly after that, a lot of us question whether or not we would ever see the original Super Saiyan non-God forms ever again, because why would they even use those forms? Well, it turns out that there was a reason for that we found out in the manga, but never really in the anime, but I'll talk about that here in a moment. But to summarize, Goku and Vegeta can tap into either regular Ki or divine Ki and choose whichever transformation pathway they want to take. As per Whis' training, Super Saiyan Blue allows Goku and Vegeta to maintain their energy without it leaking out, thus creating a very stable form for combat, unlike other forms that can break on you, like, for example, Super Saiyan 3. They are also able to increase the power of this form through training and through combat, which is why we see Goku constantly evolving throughout Super in his fights with Frieza, Goku Black, and of course Jiren, and we see Super Saiyan Blue get stronger and stronger because Goku himself is getting stronger and stronger and can power up that form. But it's not all sunshine and roses. According to the Dragon Ball Super manga, we find out that the Super Saiyan Blue form does actually drain stamina upon transformation. Early on, we found out that if the form is used multiple times, it will drop the user's power and speed by anywhere close to 90%, and that's why Vegeta had problems fighting Hit in the manga and Goku was doing a lot better. Goku even stated that this form requires too much power to start a battle, which is how they're able to explain why Goku and Vegeta can use their non-God forms to kind of start the battle before switching to God forms in order to conserve stamina. But we find out in the manga during the Goku Black arc, they were able to figure out how to consistently switch between God and Blue forms back and forth in an instant, utilizing Super Saiyan God for its speed and power boosts, but using Super Saiyan Blue for more concentrated power with their attacks and their blows. This does not mean that God is faster than Blue, by the way, or stronger. It just means that the stamina that Super Saiyan God uses is less of a strain on the body than Blue is. So what they did was they fought in red for the majority of the fight, but right before their blows struck, they would switch over to Blue. Now, understand we never saw this in the anime, so it's tough to say whether or not this was Toriyama's idea or Toyotaro's idea, and I don't believe we even saw it again after that initial time in the Goku Black arc. Obviously, we would see Super Saiyan God and Blue once again in the Tournament of Power and Dragon Ball Super Broly, but this whole concept of Vegeta being able to instantly use Blue in short bursts was singularly used in the Goku Black arc. We have not seen it since. Which just goes to show that as Dragon Ball Super progressed, Goku and Vegeta both learned a lot more about this form, even to the point where in the anime, Goku is able to suppress himself even in Super Saiyan God. So Super Saiyan God does not just mean you can destroy somebody or hurt them really badly. Goku is able to control how much power he puts out in Super Saiyan God in the anime. So some may see it as a contradiction, but I see it more as a fundamental, deeper understanding of how that form works. Also, if you are wondering about Kaioken Blue and you're new here, I covered that in the Technique Guide series here on the channel, and that video covers everything you need to know about Kaioken Blue. Super Saiyan Blue Evolution is an interesting one. It may share some similarities with Perfected Blue from the manga, but it's not quite the same thing, neither are its origins. I have already released a transformation guide on not only the base Super Saiyan Blue, but also Perfected Blue in the archives here on the channel, so check that playlist. Let's talk about Super Saiyan Blue Evolution. I find it interesting that with Super Saiyan Blue Evolution, there are obvious ideas for this form that were taken from some of the things Vegeta did in the original manga, but Akira Toriyama, as far as we know, had nothing to do with this transformation. This form was created by Toei Animation and was originally conceived and illustrated by Dragon Ball Super chief character designer Tadayoshi Yamamuro, who also was an animation supervisor and a director on various Dragon Ball projects since all the way back in the 90s. There has never been any mention of Blue Evolution outside of the anime and maybe Heroes. We have not seen it in the manga, we haven't seen it in any of the recent movies, and Toriyama himself has not revealed anything about it, but we have seen Toriyama's illustrations for Ultra Instinct, and of course the new forms in Dragon Ball Super Superhero. So that would lead us to believe, based on the fact that we've only seen Yamamuro's designs, that it was a Toei Animation exclusive form that may or may not get adapted to future episodes, manga, or movies, depending on where they want to go with it. But the concept behind Blue Evolution is one that was visited by the Dragon Ball Super manga with Ultra Ego, and that is the idea that Vegeta wanted to go his own way. From the very beginning of the Vegeta character arc, he's been trying to play catch up to Goku. Out of the two, Goku was always the one to achieve new levels of power, new transformations, while Vegeta was trying to catch up and in many ways built up a lot of resentment inside of Vegeta because of his envy and confusion as to why Goku was able to achieve this power despite him being rated a low-class warrior at birth while Vegeta was a super elite. It didn't make sense to him, and then finally in the Buu saga, Vegeta realized that it's not about what power level you're born with, it's about what you do with the time you are given while you're alive, and thus Goku's hard work and fighting genius is what allowed him to really discover these new levels of power. And that goes all the way into the Tournament of Power when we saw Super Saiyan Blue Evolution for the very first time. But before we saw Super Saiyan Blue Evolution, we saw Goku tap into Ultra Instinct in the actual arc. And obviously it was Ultra Instinct Omen at that time. It wasn't Ultra Instinct with the silver hair, at least not yet. But Vegeta, upon seeing Goku's incredible speed and power with that form, wanted to match up to him and learn Ultra Instinct, but it didn't work out for him. So the more he's fighting with Jiren and the other members of Universe 11, the more he realized that he could not at this point follow Goku's footsteps and instead chose to go his own path, which led him to mutate his version of Super Saiyan Blue into Super Saiyan Blue Evolution. It's been a while, but if you remember, the first time that we ever saw Blue Evolution was during one of the Dragon Ball Super credits, where you see a shot of Goku and Vegeta next to each other, and Goku's in UI Omen, and Vegeta is in what looked like Super Saiyan Blue, but the colors were slightly different. He seemed a bit more glossy. It was more of a royal blue color, and why not royal blue? I mean, he is of the bloodline of royalty. So that was our first kind of hint of what's to come. And then as we saw the fight in the Tournament of Power progress, we then saw that Goku could not maintain Ultra Instinct for very much longer. So Vegeta, instead of going down that road, would tap into Blue Evolution by tapping into what drove him to be a great warrior, what has always driven him, and that is his own pride. This idea was revisited in the manga version of the Granola arc with Ultra Ego Vegeta. I've already done a video going into the Ultra Ego Vegeta transformation and how it is based on pride and ego. So it's almost like Blue Evolution was possibly inspiring for Toyotaro to write and maybe Toriyama to help out with, or perhaps it's just similar ideals based on Vegeta's character. I've talked a lot about Vegeta's similarities to Beerus, did a separate video about that, and how Beerus is a much more fitting trainer for Vegeta, while Whis is a far more fitting trainer for Goku, although both of them share in the training duties of each of the two fighters. Blue Evolution suits Vegeta better. And although Blue Evolution has never proven to be as useful as Ultra Instinct, it still allowed Vegeta to break his limits and go beyond and fight at his best, shattering what he could previously do, therefore making him a more competitive fighter, and also allowing him to survive the final explosion that he used on Topo in the TOP. I do think that Blue Evolution and Vegeta making himself stronger had a hand to do with that. The Grand Priest himself states that Vegeta appeared to have broken through his shell, and that allowed him to tap into higher levels of power. Now, when I said it was in reference to stuff from the original manga, a la Dragon Ball Z, the anime, I meant it. Super Saiyan Blue Evolution very much resembles Vegeta's transformation against Second Form Cell when he tapped into what was called Super Saiyan Grade 2, otherwise known in the Western world, thanks to the, quite frankly, incorrect English dub, calling it Ascended Saiyan. The form is Grade 2, and I have done a transformation guide to going into all the details about Grade 2. If you remember, when Vegeta taps into Grade 2, he gets really, really buff. He literally doubles in muscle mass and gets larger and still gains power, but does not sacrifice speed like what Grade 3, which is what Trunks used against Perfect Cell, and unfortunately gave him a handicap, whereas Level 2 or Grade 2 doesn't really do that. And the same thing goes with Blue Evolution. As far as we can see, there's no drawback to using Blue Evolution. So there are similarities, but what makes this different from Ultra Ego or Super Saiyan Grade 2 is that although it is based in Vegeta's pride and his willingness to keep fighting, his never give up attitude, it wasn't necessarily just his and his loved ones. If you remember what happened in the anime, Vegeta was reminiscing on his new friends from Universe 6 Kaba, who Vegeta had become somewhat of a mentor of since the Universe 6 arc. He remembered what they stood for, and he was kind of bummed out that they were at one point wiped out in the TOP, and at that point, he had no idea they would ever be brought back, and thus it triggered his deeper rooted anger and pride to say, I cannot allow this to happen to any more people. I have to fight for my universe. So that is a very noble and quite frankly a very Goku / Gohan reason to transform, but it works for Vegeta because, believe it or not, it's not about him. I've noticed during my time here on YouTube that a lot of people don't even know what these words mean. A lot of folks think that ego and pride are synonymous with the word arrogance. And although there are similarities, it's not the same thing. Ego does not work that way. Same thing with pride, because you can be prideful of things that are not just egotistical. You can be proud for your friends, your family, your loved ones. You could work hard on a project. You can have a weight loss goal, and you can be prideful of that. And others who have similar issues, who have similar, roadblocks, they would kind of celebrate you having that kind of pride for your work and even for your own heritage, your race, your country, your religion, whatever. Yes, that is an aspect of pride, but it is not an aspect of arrogance. And I think a lot of people get ego and arrogance confused because that's not the same thing. Also, ego is also rooted in confidence as well. Now, I'm talking about ego, even though this is not the Ultra Ego video, because Vegeta's pride here is not arrogance where it has been in the past, especially against Cell. Here, it's him finding something to pull from within. When times are tough, you have to find something to pull from inside to get you through the hard times. Goku achieved Ultra Instinct. Vegeta, at that point, his body was not ready to achieve that power, so instead, he focused himself on the passing of his friends and used that to fuel him to be strong. Dragon Ball Super director Megumi Ishitani, who directed episode 131, was interviewed shortly after the episode aired and revealed that Blue Evolution not only was an anime-only form, which I discussed here earlier in the video, but also revealed that it is relative to Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken. So when we see Goku and Vegeta side by side facing off against Jiren, they're relatively the same level of power, so it's not quite at Ultra Instinct, whereas in the Granola arc, one could argue that Ultra Ego is a bit closer. We don't really know exactly the differences between mastered or true Ultra Instinct Goku and Ultra Ego, especially since Vegeta has not used that form that often yet, and Goku has more experience with UI. But one would assume that if we see Vegeta use Blue Evolution in the future, it'll likely get stronger, but as of the TOP, it is equal to SSB Kaioken. Also, Blue Evolution is one of the transformations that we do not see Goku achieve. Could Goku ever hit this? Probably. I mean, he's got enough experience and is strong enough to do it, but will we ever see him hit it? As of right now, I'm going to say no. I think this form is going to be sort of Vegeta's specialty, not one that Goku uses, and we never have seen him use it, and that's rare because Goku gets everything. And like I mentioned previously, not only did this form give Vegeta a stronger power, he also seemed to have gotten a second wind. It wasn't like he was magically healed like what Super Saiyan God did in the Battle of Gods arc that I don't know if we ever saw that again, except, did we ever see it again? I don't think so. I'm not really sure we did. But Blue Evolution seemed to have given Vegeta a lot more energy than what he had before. He was tired. He had been fighting nonstop for quite some time, and the form gave him power and gave him stamina. But when you really compare Blue Evolution to Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, we know that Kaioken oftentimes can leave your body burnt out, whereas Blue Evolution does not have that issue. On top of that, we saw Vegeta face off against God of Destruction Toppo, and in Blue Evolution was able to combat Toppo and Toppo's Hakai energy. And to me, that says that, without question, folks, Blue Evolution is a precursor to what we would know as Ultra Ego. Granted, I don't think it was done on purpose. I don't think it was planned out this way. I think it just happens to come out this way because of the fact that we're having these multiple different stories being told from multiple different perspectives, different writers. Toriyama is not the only person writing this story now, and when you have different cooks in the kitchen, you're going to have different flavors, but ultimately the flavors tell the same story, and that is that Vegeta ultimately chose to go his own path. As of the creation of this video, and as far as we know, the perfected Super Saiyan Blue is not a form that was used in the Dragon Ball Super anime. It seems to be exclusive to the Dragon Ball Super manga. And it is not Blue Evolution. Blue Evolution will receive a separate transformation guide. Right now, let's talk about what perfected Blue actually is, and hopefully by the end clear up any confusion involving what Goku actually did when he used this form. Because at first I was confused, but now I get it. Super Saiyan Blue was awesome, but it had a big drawback, and that would be stamina. Now, I outlined this in my Super Saiyan Blue transformation guide, so if you have not seen that video, it is imperative that you watch that one to fully grasp and understand what was stated about the stamina problems in Super Saiyan Blue, both in the manga and its brief discussion, very brief, in the anime. But the manga would elaborate on it more. However, the anime was the first one to introduce the idea that Whis had told us about, which is about containing your God Ki inside of your body and not having it leak out, so to speak. We heard about this even before we saw the Resurrection F arc of the anime, as Whis is training Goku and Vegeta before they even knew what Blue was. Once they were able to achieve Blue, they would later find out that Blue was great but imperfect. Goku and Vegeta for a time had to figure out ways to get around this stamina drawback, including tapping into God and switching into Blue, or utilizing the non-God forms for combat. However, as Goku learned more about Blue, he was able to figure out ways to build up his body's endurance using both regular Ki and God Ki, and because of that, he was able to eventually figure out a way to tap into the maximum power of Super Saiyan Blue without the stamina drawback, and that's what would become perfected Blue. However, as a result of this training and this mastery of his own body. It's sort of like a Super Saiyan Blue version of what full power Super Saiyan was back in Dragon Ball Z. And I've also done a technique guide about that as well to explain that. But with Super Saiyan Blue's version, Perfected Blue, it looks just like the regular blue, except that in this version, there's no aura, there's no energy, because Goku has learned how to suppress and contain all of his energy inside of his body and not have it leak out, and thus causing a stamina drain. When he's in Perfected Blue, the stamina does not leak out, and he's able to utilize his power at max without having to switch between God and Blue to conserve stamina. At this point, Goku had attained mastery of Super Saiyan Blue by containing his aura inside of his body through intense concentration, allowing him to boost his power so much that he was able to fight evenly with Merged Zamasu, which in itself caused a lot of confusion in the fandom, because at that point, the only character that was able to fight off against Merged Zamasu was Vegeta Blue. And we all know that Vegeta is significantly, multitudes, unquantifiably stronger than Goku. And for a while, many folks thought that Goku in Perfected Blue was equal to Vegeta Blue. Is that even possible? I don't think so. I think Vegeta Blue wore down Zamasu enough to where Perfected Blue could handle him, albeit for a very brief time. Goku, being a lifelong martial artist who learned how to tap into power, who learned how to contain his power, and was the first to actually show off this form. However, Vegeta also figured it out, which is why we saw him use this during the Tournament of Power in the manga. In fact, Beerus himself even states that Vegeta is gaining so much power that he may be strong enough to be a candidate to be a God of Destruction for another universe, of course. But that's still pretty high praise coming from Beerus about Vegeta's growth as a fighter. There has been some debate, though, about where Goku and Vegeta stand when it comes to Dragon Ball Super Broly, as well as Gogeta, because some fans believe that Gogeta Blue was actually using Perfected Blue in that movie. But based on the way the animation style was, at no point did I think that Gogeta was using Perfected Blue. However, it is a possibility. That's one that I'll leave you to figure out. Now, afterward, in the Moro arc, we do see Goku use this form against Sagambo because he wanted to conserve his stamina for Ultra Instinct Omen. Notice the constant repetitive nature of this whole stamina thing. First, Goku has problems with stamina in the old Super Saiyan forms, including Super Saiyan 3, then with God in Blue, and then now with Perfected Blue. It's almost like Goku figures out a new form, then he discovers a major drawback for combat purposes and figures out a way to overcome it, usually by coming up with a upgraded or higher level version, higher grade version of that form. We see this with Full Power Super Saiyan, aka Grade 4, and we're seeing it here once again with Super Saiyan Blue. In fact, you could even argue that Super Saiyan Blue itself is like a more concrete version of God. Although that's not the case, you can make that argument, and I wouldn't think you were a fool for making it. Also, there's a bit of a controversy when it comes to this form being used in the TOP, with regards to a panel where Goku appears to be using Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, but when it was colored, it was not Kaioken, and Krillin remarks that what he's doing is similar to Kaioken, and because of that, there's much debate about whether this is Perfected Blue. However, based on statements made by Jiren, it seems to be that Goku is extremely strained and powered up, as opposed to containing his energy, like how he would with Perfected Blue. And because of that, I don't believe that that panel represents Perfected Blue. But if you want to know more about that, check out my Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken video in the technique guide. There's lots of videos I've done about all this stuff, and it can be a bit confusing because things tend to change a lot when it comes to jump scans and statements and Toriyama interviews. But I'm trying to produce several guides here to make things easier for newer fans or even old school fans who may be confused about how these forms work, because it's never really explained thoroughly in one singular place. You have to go doing research everywhere, and that's what I'm doing for all of you to make your lives easier until we actually get some kind of Dragon Ball Super guidebook like a Daizenshu or something at some point that can further elaborate and further explain this if they ever choose to do it. With that being said, I will bring this video to a close. that is all we have to say about Perfected Blue. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next Transformation Guide.